Thank you very much, Mayor Gruber. Being that I'm pretty new to the Quad Cities, I was told that Mayor Gruber has a long history of social justice causes, and I thank you, Mayor. Now, I would like to focus my speech on 4 questions. What is the social significance of the Occupy Wall Street protest? What does it mean? That was my initial reason for calling this political soapbox. For people to start saying to themselves, there's something here, there's something important here. What is it all about? The second question is, are occupiers liberals and Democrats, or is the larger social issue above our partisan philosophies? The third question is, what are some of the issues we can begin to identify for the Occupy causes? And finally, how do we mobilize from here? From today, how do we mobilize? How do we take the next step? Okay, social significance. First of all, there has been a rising, what I call a rising of global consciousness. The Arabs are beginning to realize that they don't deserve freedom unless they rise up and break the bonds of oppressors, break the bonds of their political dictators. We saw how Saddam Hussein was found in a hole. Now we see how the latest dictator was found also in a pipe, and how his life of abusing his people and calling them rats, this is not tolerable anymore. We the people are beginning to raise our consciousness and realize that we can break the bonds of these alien things that oppress us. So while the Arabs are realizing that they're breaking their dictator political bonds, European countries, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in America, we are realizing that we have an equal kind of oppressor, and that is the entrenched economic system, which steals our wealth from us, constantly directed upwards. But no one has ever brought up the issue of how hard it is to get a business off the ground. Why should it be so hard for we the people to be creative? Everyone's yelling for another Steve Jobs. That's just one man. If we the people had more opportunity to start businesses, there'd be a million Steve Jobs. How many Steve Jobs are right now in this crowd? But you wouldn't know it. Or you're busy working so long that when you get home, all you want to do is vegetate. Is that we have equal oppressors. Maybe it's not political, but actually these economic oppressors infiltrate the political system too. I know that there are many of individuals here will make speeches about how government is setting laws that oppress we the people. And why? It is because the moneyed interests, over time, I would like to listen to what he's saying. Over time, the moneyed interests have really infiltrated our political system. And to me, the worst thing that I see is when the Supreme Court made that judgment that corporations have equal rights to people. To me, that is the sign of corruption at the worst, the highest. When corruption can get to the Supreme Court and redefining the legal system in this way. Anyways, so the second question, are occupiers liberals and Democrats, or is there a larger social issue beyond these partisan philosophies? If we take the issue of the polarization of our global wealth seriously, we begin to realize that we are the 99% who are denied an equitable share of our world's resources. Whether we be Republican, Tea Partiers, whether we be small business owners, we are still the 99%. When you stand here, you are the 99%. By focusing on how we might fight for an economic system where we can keep a fairer portion of the wealth we create, rather than artificially redistributing it, we can rise above the Republican self-sufficiency versus the socialist redistribution debate. Right now, the Republicans and the Tea Parties are yelling, it's not good if you are yelling, take wealth from the rich and give to the poor. They're saying that, what I'm saying, we don't have to do that. All we have to do is change the system in such a way that the poor will keep the wealth they create. We're all about people who are hip to what's going on and realizing that it's a matter of how wealth is, how created wealth is distributed rather than what's taken. When, for example, and the mayor brought up the issue of the Fed. Now, and in the River City Reader, there was an article, Occupy the Fed, not Wall Street. Now, I think these points are getting really at the heart of what the matter is. Who owns the general resources of the Fed, if not we the people? The Fed is like, it's like, there was like, in the past there was like an island that used sand dollars for currency. And one time I asked a question to my friend, I said, when somebody finds a new sand dollar out of the ocean and they get circulated in the currency of that island, where does the value come from? Where does the value of that sand dollar come from? Think about it. If you have an island in the ocean and their currency is to use the sand dollars, which is a kind of a seashell, okay? They use that as their currency. When a new sand dollar is found in the ocean and circulated on that island, who owns that? Where does the wealth come from? Where does the value for that come from? Well, it takes its value from an equal portion of the entire island. The economy of the entire island, it borrows its value from. So when the Fed create money, where does the value come from? All of we the people, all of us, all of our wealth, it eats into all of our wealth. So what do they do with this money? They lend banks at 0% interest. Corporate banks at 0% interest. And then when we borrow, we pay 20% interest on our credit cards. Does that make sense? That they're borrowing from us and lending at 0% and charging us 20%? If we occupy the Feds instead, what we can do is let them give direct loans at 0% to small businesses. Think about it. That is a very specific, powerful idea. If small businesses were able to borrow money at 0%, all the wealth that was created by these poor small business creators, they'll keep. They won't be sending that wealth to investors who are sitting on millions of dollars and are sitting on their butts and making money by just sitting on their butts and underwriting. Right now, I believe we're in what I call a primitive capitalistic system that is skewing wealth creation to be further polarized with those who own most of the wealth of the world, who already own it and are underwriting the loans. They're getting a disproportionate amount of the wealth we create, and they are not creating anything. All they're doing is facilitating with the wealth they've already have. Why should starting a small business be as hard as the space shuttle breaking the gravity of the Earth? Do you know how much fuel is used for the space shuttle to break the gravity of the Earth? Well, in our present unjust, primitive capitalistic system, it takes that much energy to become rich. It takes that much energy to start a business and become wealthy. And again, I make the point, The Steve Jobs can be found when the people are liberated. Because it was just an accident that one man with a talent was able to be just in that right place to make such a creative difference in the world. Imagine how much of us that have talent right now can't do it because we're out there. I spent 6 years as a trucker, writing a book, talking to my fellow Americans. And I came from a teacher to be a trucker, and I see how truckers work so hard and how much good ideas they have over the CB radio. And it's all put to waste because they have to work, you know, they're treated like machines, you know. So with my personal experience, come from that. I am the 99%, just like all of you. And, you know, when I was trying to recruit for this event, I go to the mall. And I talk to the workers at the mall, I say, hey, pass the word. They're like, what is Occupy Wall Street? And I'm like, wow. And they're like, you know, we work so hard. By the time I get home, I just want to sleep. I just want to, you know, go to the bar or something. I don't have time to listen to the news. That's how we are. That's how we are abused. That's how we are kept down. This is not inconsistent with what the Tea Party is saying. The Tea Party rose up against the government lending money to these to bail out these banks. Well, the banks blackmailed us into doing that. We had to do that. If we didn't, we would have collapsed even more. So ultimately, I say that we had to. But I say this is the time to make, now that resulted in the rise of the Occupy Wall Streeters, who are realizing that it's time to take a major change now and finally resolve this matter. Okay, so the issues that we can begin to identify: inspire creativity and stimulate wealth production by bringing Fed lending rates to the bottom of the wealth pyramid, what I mentioned before, lending at 0% to small businesses. That would stimulate the economy. It would be a massive stimulus project. Instead of lending to the banks, you lend directly to the wealth creators. It would also significantly reduce unemployment, because there are so many individuals with business ideas that would just love the funding to get it started.
Buy American!
Yes!
Yeah. That's what we can do.
And now here is a very interesting thing that we can talk about. Begin thinking about how we define human heroism, discouraging tying success to financial gain, and begin opening our minds to the very many forms of achievement, such as the arts. Right now, what happened? Let me ask you a question. What happened on the corporate level that caused this great theft of American wealth with the present recession? We had a bunch of individuals, a bunch of smart individuals who are working in Wall Street that say to themselves, you know what? If I can make $1 billion, I'm a hero. If I can get away with $1 billion, I'm a hero. American society, the world society right now, defines heroism as the next Donald Trump. If I can be the next Donald Trump, I've succeeded. I'm proposing to us, let us redefine what the hero is. Let's redefine the hero as anyone that can contribute to the betterment of humanity. So, another issue, find ways to perpetually activate the people. Keep us constantly active. If we make the mistake of trying to form a political party or trying to find a presidential candidate, in time, that party will be infiltrated again by the moneyed interests. In time, the presidential candidate will be corrupted by campaign contributions from the wealthy. It is better that we remain perpetually active in an organization and continually lobby and keep politicians accountable according to these economic justice concerns of ours.
Term limits!
Term limits. Okay, finally, let me finish because I don't want to take up all the soapbox here. There are very many individuals willing to come up and speak. Finally, where do we go from this point onward after this event today? If you are interested in this dialogue and want to take part in thinking up a brighter new world, record your name, number, and email in my notebook. I'm going to present the notebook to you, and I want us to start forming a smaller focus group. Individuals who have free time, let's get together, let's meet at the libraries, let's meet at City Hall, let's form a smaller focus group and start hammering out these ideas. You can friend Occupy Wall Street or Occupy Quad Cities Facebook is the main Facebook for the Occupy organizing here. And also, I have what I call a visionary page, which is called New American Spring. If you search Facebook pages New American Spring, it is where all of the ideas that I'm presenting here, you know, that's the beginning point where we can all mobilize around and begin to hammer out these ideas and make a real contribution to all of Occupy across the country.